Well, guys, it is Memorial Day today, and glad you could join me here on the channel. As you can see, Memorial Day this year, we got a lot of rain. Everything's just soggy wet back in the garden, so we are going to do something a little bit different today. We're going to do a little bit of the indoor gardening. So if any of you ever thought about doing this, take a look at this video. But before we do anything, and even though we're not going splashing in the garden, why don't you get your wellies? Meet me in the garden. Some of you who've been following the channel know that I do some indoor gardening, not just seed starting and slips and things like that, but we'll actually grow lettuce and small tomatoes and that kind of thing. And there are some good reasons to do that. So let's go have a look at the indoor space where the temperature is much more consistent. And let's have a look at what we could maybe grow starting today with seeds. Now, many of you have seen this before. This is my indoor gardening area. This is actually just a 3-shelf system, and on these lower shelves I had my seeds starting. And actually we started peppers at the end of January, and they went out, it's probably been 6 weeks ago or a little bit more. These are on the top you see the Aero Gardens. There's the sprout, and then there's the harvest. This grow cruiser that you see here is a full spectrum light, and that definitely gives the plants a good start. Now, the lights on these 2 units are also full spectrum, and so theoretically, and I've done it, you can grow tomatoes in here. But this time I think I'm just going to do some lettuce. We've got tomatoes out there, and I'm going to be optimistic and say that we'll at least have some cherry tomatoes in 30 to 60 days. And we hopefully will have some bigger ones going pretty well. But either way, it's going to be good to have some lettuce. Now, where these things come into their own, I go outside today and it's like, this is a lettuce growing day because it's cooler, it's wet, they're going to get plenty of rain. But the problem is it's going to be hot out there. So really too hot for lettuces to grow. So what happens with a lot of those kind of crops is they'll sprout up pretty quick unless it's literally too hot for the seeds to germinate. They do like slightly lower germination temperatures than things like peppers and tomatoes. But if they do germinate, they're going to want to go to seed really quick because it's just too hot for them. So lettuce is a good crop to grow indoors if you're interested in this kind of setup, or you want to look at doing hydroponics. This is considered aeroponics. Let me turn the light on this one. But this is considered aeroponics because the water kind of sprays on the roots. It bubbles in there, and so you're getting some moisture getting to the roots in a way that waters them like that. In a true hydroponic system, the water can be flowing or it can be static. And what's happening is the nutrient-dense water is flowing over the roots, or the roots are just literally staying down in the solution, and they grow, and then they're done. So lettuce really fits this pretty well because you're not trying to balance solutions for weeks on end to try and keep plants going. So if you're first time at trying this, lettuce is a good one to grow. And of course it's fun because there's all different kinds of lettuce that you can grow. So I've made myself a little space in here, and as we get things going, I'll show you more what I'm doing. So to start off with, what I'm going to do, I've removed the top off of this. This needs cleaning out, so I'm going to turn that off. And I'm going to go empty this container and make sure all the parts in here are clean. So I'm trying to show you some of the parts of this, because I've used this on other videos, but I don't know that I've gone into just a whole lot of detail. The system whereby the water is circulated is quite simple in this one. It just bubbles much like an aerator in an aquarium. This divider goes behind the bubble unit and just slots in and holds in there. So that will help to stop some of the roots growing through and getting all up in this bubble unit, and it will block. So there is a little cleaning tool that comes with that. You can just use wire to clean through this bubble unit so that the air can lift up out of there okay. On the side, there is a fill level right here. So this is the only notification you really get of if it needs more water or not. Now at the front, if you're starting to see the water level down below the black lip, it's pretty low, so you definitely will want to fill it. This is actually the minimum line down here, but I would not let it get that low. I keep a pretty close eye on mine, and there are some extra things you can buy that help with that. You don't need them, especially if you're going to be around where you can look at this every day. You don't necessarily have to have like an automatic waterer, but you can get them. They're called the Aero Garden, and I've done a video on those before. So here we are with the cleaned top and opening to fill our Aero Garden with water. And these containers actually are not the original ones. The originals are like this. So you can see they're longer. I'm holding those at the same level, so you can see how the base of that one, this is the original Aero Garden one, is longer. So here's the issue and why I have mix matches here. The reason I'm not sure why they went out of business, and if you hear something different that they're not going out of business, then let me know. But everything I've seen, that looks like what has happened. And so I have to assume that there's a lot of competition. The Aero Garden was hugely successful when it first came out, and it evolved from fluorescent lights to actually I think they even had incandescent bulbs at first, then fluorescent, and then now of course they're full spectrum LEDs. But there's a lot of competition in those markets because electronics are so cheap now to make. And so I think that's probably what has happened. So having said that, I do have these components. These are not a Miracle-Gro product, like I just said before. I've used them. So for example, this component, this one sits fairly high versus the Miracle-Gro product, which sits lower in the system. I think you can see that it's much lower. Also, because of the extra length of this one, the the peat sticks, that's what I call them, but they're little cones that are made out of the peat, are kind of shorter to fit in there. So if you mismatch these things, you can use them, but they don't fit just perfect like some people like them to. But I don't have a whole system made up of all the products that go with that. So if you have bought a system that's not an Aero Garden and you like it, please leave a comment below so that people who are interested and can't necessarily find an Aero Garden anymore, leave a message for them, a comment to let us know which ones you think are good. If you bought another product and you really liked it, we would love to hear about that. So please share. So I'm going to, this one's got water in, I'm going to go grab some cones and we'll put some lettuce seeds in here, and then I will do that one on camera. I'll set this one up off camera and then we'll take a look at them together when I've done both. But let me go grab the cones for this first one. Okay, so I'm going to set these up just as though I was using the original equipment, but let me show you, see how, let me get this in front of this little peat pod is up at the top of the container here, and this is about the right size. These are aftermarket too. These are the right size really for this one. Now what'll happen is dry. Some people like to pre-moisten them, but it will absorb water out of the system and it doesn't take very long. But there is a little bit of difference in how these sit, so you do kind of want to try and make that sit right on the bottom. Otherwise they're going to sink pretty low in there and might be a little bit too waterlogged. So I always just try and put them sort of in the middle at the bottom. And so you can put seeds in now, or you can wait till you've got the rest of it covered up, but it's probably easier now. So let me show you what my thought was on seeds. Let's put that in the light here. So this is a red velvet lettuce, so it's a soft leaf red lettuce. Nothing too exciting, but I have grown these before and they were quite tasty. You know, most of these are going to wind up in salads or on burger buns. And I wish we could cook out today, but it's just not happening today. It's way too wet out there. Now, when you buy a Miracle-Gro garden, or I'm assuming any of the others, they will sell you, whenever you buy another system, they generally come with some little tweezers in them, which is kind of handy. Yeah, just push them in the hole there. So they drop in a little ways. I usually do 2 or 3 because they often will all take, and but some might be a little close to the top and their roots won't be quite as deep. So I like to have some choices there, and what I'll do is I will pick the healthiest looking seedling once I've got 2 or 3 popping out the top there, and then I'll let's see, yeah, we got 3 in there. I'll pick the best looking seedling and let that one stay, and I'll take the others out. I don't really like to overcrowd this system because it's already small to begin with. So these are the red lettuce. I'm gonna let me show you what I got for the other one. I just got this salad bowl, another burpee product. This is a soft leaf, and this one will actually grow quite big if you have it outside. At least a medium-sized lettuce, but fairly kind of on the big end of that. But here in the Aero Garden, remember that you can pick your lettuce at any size, and you don't have to just cut the whole lettuce out when it's big. You can do the cut and come again method, where you go ahead and get a few leaves at a time off of there and come back later when you need some more. So I'm going to show you a couple other things here. Like I said, we're sort of pretending we're setting this up with all the original equipment, and you do not necessarily have to do all of this, but I'm going to tell you what I'm doing and why, and then you can decide. Now, just like out in the garden, if you planted a lettuce out there and you have bare soil, once this lettuce grows, those leaves are going to cover, and you won't get a whole lot of weeds under there because it's going to block out the sun. Well, here we don't really have issue with weeds per se, but what we do have issue with is algae. And the reason we get algae is because this system's going to be pretty moist, and we've got lights on it for about 16 hours a day. So these little covers, gosh, I don't even know what they were called, to be honest. But if you look at the Aero Garden stuff, you'll see them. And these are just covers for the pods. That's what they might have been called, pod covers. And they don't fit exactly because they're really designed for the round system. But I'm going to go ahead and put them on anyway. We will make it work. And then the other thing that comes with the system is they recommend putting a cover like a dome, so a little bit like if you're growing seeds, you put a transparent cover on top so that the humidity stays in. Once your seeds are germinated, you take that off. You do that with seed trays. Let's see, I've got one here. This is for a smaller seed tray, but that's what I mean when I say this is a humidity dome, really a humidity hood. It's not a dome there. But on the Miracle Grow or similar, what we have is these plastic domes like this, and on the round Aero Garden one, they'll just kind of click and sit on top, and then your seeds are under that. This one obviously doesn't fit super well, so I'm just gonna literally place it on top like that. So let me get the others. So these are some, and I don't throw these out. You can reuse these. So I've got tons of these in different places. But like I said, these are just kind of sitting on here. So they may get blown off if the fan gets turned on in here or something. But for right now, they're fine. And like I said, once your seeds start poking up, you're going to take that little dome off anyway and save it for later. So that is all we're doing there. Now, the one other thing is that you will add food to this every 2 weeks. Both of these systems require that you add feed, and you just drop it in here. If you can get a hold of a little syringe that measures mils, that's the easiest way to do it. And systems, all the systems come with a little liquid feed, and you can still you can still buy those. So this was the Aero Garden product, and it literally just tells you for the 2 and 3 pod Aero Garden, which is this one. So we're working with the 3 pod system at the moment, and the feeding for that calls for 4 meals at startup and every 2 weeks. So I have a little bit of a disagreement with that. Lettuce should pop up pretty quick, so I'm okay with doing that. But if you have seeds that are going to take 2 weeks to even pop up, they're not going to use any food in that water in that 2 weeks. They're using all the energy in the seed. So if you're doing something that takes 10 days or longer for it to actually sprout, I would not put feed in there, and I would start putting the feed in once you see those seedlings popping up. That's my own personal preference with that. So you can get any kind of measuring syringe. I think you can probably buy these at a pharmacy. I've had this one for a long time, and I just use it for my plant food. And in the smaller systems, this size syringe is perfectly fine. 10 mil, you're not going to have to go load it up a whole bunch of times. So we're going to go ahead and put the feed in here, and it calls for 4 meals. So we're going to shake our feed up really good, and then I'm going to get 4 meals out of there. Now this is a big bottle. I want to say this was probably around $25. But I mean, I've had this for a couple of years, and I think I can tell you, I've got like 2/3 of this still left, and I've grown quite a few things in my Aero Gardens. So it does last a while, unless you've got just a massive indoor garden system. And then you're probably a little more expert than me, and you're probably doing hydroponics anyway. So that is 4 mils, and literally I'm just gonna add this to the system right here. See if I can do it where you can sort of see what I'm doing. And I just drop it in. The bubbles tend to make most of that go down after just a little while, but you can flush it out with a little bit more water if you need to. And that will be those being fed. Okay, so now I am going to set up this other Aero Garden, and I'm going to put that green salad bowl lettuce in that one, and then I'll be right back. All right, guys, well, this is the finished product, I guess you would say. We have our red lettuce over here and our green lettuce over here, and they've got food in them. The light timing I may have to reset. One other thing I did want to point out about these systems, the sprout system here just has a light on the bottom, and every 2 weeks that light's going to come on. This one has a little leaf that will start to flash when you need to add feed, and those are 2-week intervals, so really as long as I see one of them, I know they both need to be fed and reset. The harvest also has this blue light that will tell you if the water level is low. This one does not. It's just a visual looking at your max and minimum signs. However, I do have the Aero, this system here, and you see one behind the harvest model. I just went ahead and put those on because they're really good about if you go away for a couple of days and you don't want to have to worry about adding water to the system. So if you need to add water to the system and it's not working automatically, you just use that little blue bulb right there and you can squeeze it in. So that's about it, guys. I'm going to give you some updates over the course of the next couple of weeks, and we'll see how fast they grow in here. So that may be of interest to you. Today is it's Memorial Day, so it's the 26th of May, and I will try and give at least a short update on how these are doing, maybe every week. And if you have any questions, please leave those in the comments below, and I can answer those on the videos as we look at those over the course of the next several weeks till they're ready to harvest. So hope you enjoyed it. Again, if you have any questions, just let me know. Give me a thumbs up and subscribe. A like really helps the channel. Doesn't cost you anything, just especially if you really like the video, be sure and give me a thumbs up. I'd appreciate that. And I will see you on the next video of Get Your Wellies. But until then, bye now.